Hey everybody, Big Chonis here, coming to you guys on a Saturday. Hope everybody had a great Thanksgiving, safe and great food as I did. Hope you guys were able to enjoy the same. Got Bitcoin up here, very interesting price action over the past couple days. Let's dig into it. Before I do, remember you guys can follow me on Twitter at Big Chonis. Hit 50,000 followers. Thank you very much. Very happy to also offer through BingBon first 100 people that do sign up for a new account with at least a minimum $100 deposit will get a match of $100 USD with at least one trade. I do appreciate that. And your support. Also hit a thumbs up if you enjoy my content. Now back to Bitcoin, because what's going on here is awesome that we've had this bounce happen so far. I am on the weekly chart. Remember, our weekly chart does close tomorrow. And I want to keep the whole perspective of where we are, where we've been, and then where we potentially can be going for some time here. Let's go to logarithmic scale here. A couple things come to mind about this move. All right, the biggest thing obviously is that we have once again have ranged all the way back to the $20,000 area. Okay, we did get as high as 19.5, and that still currently is our overall rejection area currently. But obviously what's more important about this move is that what we've been able to overcome all those resistance levels that had stopped us in a track previously. The most notable one here was our highs of 2019, which was just a hair under $14,000. And of course, we had our 10K neckline break with a very nice back test and hold of support. So being able to achieve all these resistance levels and blast through them with great volume, okay, is definitely a true testament to the possibilities of what Bitcoin can achieve. But where do we find ourselves? We find ourselves once again in another historic area of significant resistance. The most notable resistance of our overall years of Bitcoin price action, which was our top currently here of a little bit under $20,000. Now, do we believe this move is over? It's possible. Okay, we basically have retested an area that was major resistance. We've rejected from it. And I'll talk about the rejection and basically where we are on the smaller time frames in just a moment. But the bigger perspective is here that any kind of a nominal pullback has thousands of dollars of room to run, before it even comes close to testing our nearest key support of that $14,000 zone. All it's basically been doing here is ranging up week by week with bullish green arrows and surpassing previous major resistance areas that have become support. Now, this current pullback, I want to talk about what that looks like on our current oscillators. We can see a very bullish on balance volume. There's our pullback. Now, of course, we've done this multiple times along the way. What's encouraging is this last extension here was so strong, and you wouldn't even know that we had a $3,000 crash with this little blip here. It looks like just a blip. So no major market change in a meaningful way here. This is our chalk and money flow. And, we've talked about this on previous shows about our historic line of resistance. I know I tweeted about it. And that is resistance, resistance, resistance. 3 resistance taps on a line does give significance. And there it is. There's the able to actually break above it, and then there's the pretty strong so far rejection off it. So this line is holding, and this line is holding on the CMF, and that is notable because of how strong on this upper plane here of resistance this particular line has been every time we are able trying to get above it. Now, this doesn't kill the fact that we're in a bullish market. We can see that when we were actually at our highs of 2017 in December, it was here. So we were lower than where this line is. But that does signify that we have something of a consistent resistance here, and we're going to see if that continues to hold. This is our weekly RSI. Now, what do we know about this weekly RSI? I've adjusted my RSI to 80-20 versus 30-70. As you can see, when we are above our 80 area, okay, we can do one of two things. We can blast through it and get as high as 84, 85, 89, and just about 90. So there's running room when we get above the 80s, even though we are very high up there. The 80 area was the exact resistance, double resistance, right, of our 2019 bull market. And here we are once again reciprocating into this area and getting that rejection. Now note all these previous rejections in 2016 and 2017, even though we were in a very virulent bull market, okay, were clear pullbacks that consisted of 15, 20, 30, sometimes even 40% of the price action before the continuation of the bullish price action continued. And where did that bring us? Every time we did have those big pullbacks, somewhere around the mid 50 range in our RSI. 50 range, 50 range, 50 range. Every time we were able to find that support, boom, up we went. So once again, our pullback in the past couple days is very similar to these, but arguably could be just beginning if we were going to continue to do the historic pattern of what happens when we're in the RSI up on these heights here. We also have our daily stochastic that has been topped off here. Now, of course, we can be here for a long period of time. Sorry, the weekly stochastic. I remember back in 2019 how amazed I was at how long we were actually able to be up here. Just because we hit the top doesn't mean we instantly reject and come back down, but it should be noted that we are at the top levels here. And even though we are at the top levels, I think what's interesting here is that we're at the top levels and we've come so far in terms of price action, right? When we were getting up here, March and April of 2019, we were basically starting our run quite early. And then from the first time we were able to get up there, the $4,000, $5,000 range to where we actually ended, okay, this was around 4K Bitcoin, and over here was around July of 19, that was around the 14K Bitcoin resistance, okay? But we're already up here on this move here, and we've already climbed 300%. We've already climbed, I should say, from our September lows, almost, $8,000-9,000. So we've already moved so high in the price, and yet it'd be amazing if we did the length of time we were up here, because this length basically is where we started to where we ended, and that was the full string of the price action from 4K to 14K. Here we've already done all that major move in this context, and are basically at this top level here. Concede either we stay up here for quite a while, or we get our rejection. And a rejection, especially two closes under the 90 area, would be notable, because that would be a deviation from what we had seen previously on our, the previous last time we were very as bullish as we are now. And lastly here, this is our MACD. Again, lagging indicator, but we can see our spread from our indicators here equals the distance between the blue and the orange here, almost to the extremes as we used to have here on our highs of our 2017 bull market. Very close, the 17 one was probably a little larger, a little more of a spacing. But again, we are at the extremes from a MACD standpoint of this, but we do have running room in our histogram. Okay, this is our top here. We've actually eclipsed our 2019 histo mountain, but we can see running room if we do something similar to our 2017 one there. Very interesting. This is a very important week here, because if the bears are kind of really take a stand of the $19,000 rejection, they need to continuation of that bearish downward price action, which would show us for the first time, lower high in the histo, and potentially some sort of a slowing of our upper indicator here. The other things that are very interesting here on the weekly is our perspective to our Bollinger Band. I did tweet about this, about how we were able to get back into it on the resistance, and now we actually find ourselves on the outside of it. This is another bullish signal here, especially a close above our upper Bollinger Band this week with the rejection we currently have. Very notable and a very bullish sign. But what's also curious is our expanse of our Bollingers, how wide they are. And we can compare that. This, when we're doing the Bollingers on this thing here, the linear scale makes a heck of a lot more sense, actually. We can see the initial spread of our price action the last time, and how big we are in our terms of our bands currently. This suggests, again, one of two things, where we're at the earlier stages of this expanse, where we can actually accelerate to the upside and continue to get our lower band curling up, so all three bands are in an upward trajectory like they were here, and then get that parabolic move. Or is this already our parabolic move? And what I mean by that is when we get our lower Bollinger Band curving downward, we have other examples like here, and here, and here. Well, that was on the bullish side, where we have seen that, okay, expanse, and then we are looking for the contraction that follows suit. Now, it took a while in the 2017 bear market to accelerate down to the final break. The 2019 one was more of a straighter path there. Even though we had such volatility, it wasn't until our big March crash where we actually were able to change the direction of the Bollingers. You can see, though, because we've been consistently in this, again, a range of 5K to 14K, the spectrum of the Bollingers is much more less volatile, more of a straighter road or highway, if you will, than the extremes of what we did in 2017. And once again, that just shows how extreme it was from the move. This is a 100-fold move here, just epically from how tight these were. So on a relative scale, our Bollinger Bands are still tremendously wide on the weekly chart. And I would want to see these tighten up, relatively speaking, okay, and get more of a ranging to really induce a much more meaningful and consistent, bull charge if we're going to have that consistency moving forward. In terms of all of our moving averages, again, we're just way over everything. We're over our EMAs, we're over our MAs, nothing close. We're over our Ichimoku cloud, nothing close. One thing was interesting here. This is our weekly logarithmic regression curve, and what we're seeing here is that we did tap the upper top of our lower span. And this is very cool here, how we have three spans that we touch. We had our 2017 one, which touched the top of our red. We have a 2019 one, which touched the middle of our middle. And for now, we were able to hit the top of our green on the spin here. But what we have to show is that this has made the upper part of this band a resistance level once again. So what does this tell us? Well, it tells us two things. If we are able to continue this bull move, then we have to agree that the next major from a linear regression target would be the lower part of our middle trend, which now is around 27K, but will probably be a little bit higher, up to 28 or 29K in the coming weeks if Bitcoin is still kind of chug higher. And that could be our next major resistance on a parabolic move if we were able to continue this move henceforth. Now, as you can see, going out into the latter years, how high this regression continues, and the upper band of the red, if we were able to do something like the 2017 move, really shows you the extent of how high that would truly bring Bitcoin's price action. So the maximum bullish scenario could be construed if that was the case, that we are just going to rip continually higher here and find the regression channels to be those indicators of breaking through or not. Remember, when we were in the initial stages of our 2017 bull market, breaking out of our first regression channel, getting into our second one, and then rejecting it and back testing the top of the green. So the top of the green is that 20K, and what's interesting about that is that makes a lot of sense that at some point breaking through 20K, we then back test 20K, look for it as support, and sure enough would assume it would hold as support for that kind of continuation there. The last phase of this bull market in 2017 happened within weeks, especially that last blow off top. I mean, it was 1, 2, 3, 4. In 4 weeks, we went from 8K to 20K. So that's how quick these happened. It was basically that last 4-week period was a 50% rise. So we can assume in some sort of a major bullish case that going from, say, 24,000 to 48,000 in a matter of weeks is absolutely possible. From a historical speaking standpoint, and this would be that bullish roadmap. Now, what can deter that obviously would be the resistance of this area holding, and us continuing to hover in our green zone there, or even potentially attack our overall regression support line, which we have violated as early as this March move here, and it basically shows how low and extreme that move truly was, and then how quickly it was able to get moved and bought up there. So overall weekly standpoint, we can see that we want to watch how this candle closes. Okay, right now we're doing a little bit of a high wave spinner. Okay, this is for now could be considered a reversal candle, but we haven't seen. Well, actually, I shouldn't say that. We're also looking for the kind of volume that would be consistent with a topping pattern, just as we've seen top volume here, bottom volume here, top volume here, bottom volume here. Where we are currently in our volume spectrum is nowhere near some of those major peaks, boom, boom, and boom, and boom, and boom, when we have really had that tremendous sign that said, yes, this is a major top and or a major bottom. So keep looking for that. We need to see epic volume, which will denote the last phase of FOMO, and then the major dump into that FOMO by whales and savvier traders that are basically selling into that buying strength. And for now, on the volume spectrum, we're just not seeing that right now. That's why it's very good possibility we could hover in this area for quite a while, which would be great because that would allow a lot of those moving averages to get a lot closer to our price action and add potentially additional support all around. I want to talk about the hourly chart. I want to talk about how we've been finding our support here. And I want to talk about our resistance at 19K at 19.5 because what we had here was 2 attempts to get over the 19.5 area. Both attempts were rejected. This one was a bull trap with a very bearish candle here. And that was what our pullback did bring. Now, the support in this, let's call it low 16s area, is significant. It's significant because it sets a line of very strong buyer intent, and it sets a line of that intent at this area of resistance, reacquired of support, and then advance off of. So we have a clean area of support that we'd like to ideally see hold, and we definitely see we have buyers that are willing to scoop up Bitcoin comfortably in this area, and of course so far they are being rewarded for that. Now, things to consider. We are once again climbing up this mountain, and when we had our first bounce, the 382 was resistance not once, not twice, actually twice. And then our third time, we actually blew through it pretty substantially. And so we basically made up 50% of our dump here. Okay. And so that's good. That's an achievement. And I think you see a lot of these upper wicks here as people are acknowledging that and taking profit. However, we still have running room to the golden pocket, which would be somewhere around 18.2 to 18.3, and that would basically coincide with the next major resistance. What's also interesting about that area is where it falls along the line here as this last area of notable support, right? Before we pushed up to 19.5, that could potentially be acting as resistance, coincides right in the golden pocket. So that's what we see going into tomorrow's price action. We want to watch the weekly candle and see what kind of shape it forms. Okay, we want to see if we're going to get the resistance holding at the 50% level up the mountain, or do we have enough to get to the golden pocket, which would probably be our major area of resistance. And of course, the last one being up as high as the 786 to 84 region, which would bring us to right where we started to really fall off a cliff here. But again, another area of resistance turn support and now back to resistance. So I don't know how much more oomph we have into this, but I wouldn't be surprised if we do have enough just to get at least as high as the golden pocket. Finding support now on the 382 is also essential now that it had been major resistance. Now we're above it, so any touch of bend on the 17.4 area, we'd like to see that hold as support, showing that defined SR flip. Guys, if you appreciate my content, feel free to follow me on Twitter and hit that thumbs up button. I'm also do a lot of trading on the BingBon exchange. It's been very stable, which has been great over the past couple days in terms of all the volatility we've been seeing. Haven't had any of those kind of phantom wicks stop me out of any trades. And what's been interesting to see is kind of the ebb and flow of the overall market. Everything is moving more or less in tandem, with a couple coins, ADA and XRP, showing a little more strength from the low bounce there, basically still showing that all coins are still the flavor of the month relative to Bitcoin. And the way we actually can quantify that is we continue to have a depreciating Bitcoin dominance, which is fascinating here because we're still in that remix area, if you will. But as you can see, the dump and everything initially brought everything down. But sure enough, we're basically right back to kind of where we started here. And that's notable because Bitcoin continues to weaken against alts, and people are continuing to be more comfortable holding their money in altcoins. And that is definitely a notable trend that we yet to see really change in any meaningful way. So, it's Big Chonis. I appreciate your support. Talk to you guys soon. Have a great rest of your weekend. And I'll probably do a weekend wrap on Sunday night. Until next time, stay safe. Talk soon. Peace.